And I am Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle. Thank you for being with us tonight. Globalists are on the run. That's the focus of tonight's angle. They told us it would be wonderful.
I believe we can make our economy even stronger and make open trade an even greater force for peace and prosperity in the new century.
Keeping America competitive requires us to open more markets for all.
I believe the process of globalization is here to stay. There are enormous benefits to be gained from that global integration.
And they trash the populist opposition.
Donald Trump is a populist, and populism can be a very dangerous tool.
They look to ride the anger, not provide the answer, and that's the problem.
The larger problem is a populist, racist, know-nothing movement that is fundamentally inconsistent with democracy.
But that was all wishful thinking. From supply chain nightmares to food and fuel shortages to pointless wars, massive refugee crises, the wheels are slowly coming off the globalization train. Now, the media hate to report on this, but one of the big stories playing out over the summer is the rise of the freedom movement. I'm talking about normal people around the world who are pushing back on the globalist agenda that's essentially dominated our politics since the 1990s. Now, too often we're told that it's Americans. They're the only ones who have concerns about globalization and what it means for our culture and our economy and our way of life. But around the world, working people are now pushing back against a system that is making a small sliver of the population very rich while harming the interests of the vast majority. So if I told you, for example, that farmers who are furious about high costs and regulations were marching against government climate fanatics, I don't know, you'd probably think it was happening somewhere in rural America. But as we reported last night, it's happening in the Netherlands.
The farmers want a stable future, a normal, stable future. They buy the farm and they are gone.
You told me earlier that they have no future and they were hanging themselves. Is that something that people are aware of? Is that a crisis right now?
Yes, this is a crisis, yes.
The attack on farming and agriculture is terrifying, and it's all according to the globalist playbook. And in France, voters rejected Emmanuel Macron's globalist agenda by giving more power to left-wing and right-wing parties. Macron's support for the war in Ukraine was cited repeatedly by both opposition candidates. They seized on record-level inflation to portray Macron as a leader who paid more attention to his role on the diplomatic stage than to voters struggling to make ends meet. And in Germany, where the globalist green agenda was once front and center for the world to see, they've essentially had to admit, well, the whole thing's a failure, putting the entire country into a self-inflicted energy crisis. So what are they doing now? They're moving back to, well, they're bringing back coal. And in Britain, Boris Johnson, who became, he came to power because he was one of the few politicians who would implement Brexit. Globalists hated Brexit. He ended up getting distracted by globalist concerns as well. And he presented himself as someone who was going to focus on the working class people, but then he became enamored by China and the war in Ukraine.
Very, very important that we understand that China is a great country. It's going to be a gigantic fact of the world's economy for a long time to come.
And let me say now to the people of Ukraine that I know that we in the UK will continue to back your fight for freedom for as long as it takes.
The globalists routinely argue that anyone who questions the idea of open markets and open borders, that they're destabilizing the global system. But the truth is, it's globalization itself that is destabilizing and weakening great Western nations that have existed for centuries. And let's be real, almost all of us at this point know who the real winner in the globalization game is. Of course, he aggressively defends the system against any and all critics.
It is true that economic globalization has created new problems. But this is no justification to write off economic globalization altogether. Rather, we should adapt to and guide economic globalization.
Now, ironically, of course, Xi, he's the biggest nationalist of all, threatening anyone or any country that gets in his way. as China did recently with Australia when its Air Force was merely conducting routine missions over international waters. And of course, when push comes to shove on almost every issue, the political, business, and media establishment here, they agree with the CCP, I think pretty much every step of the way. Actually, they don't just agree with them, they end up rewarding China. We have a shocking development on that front involving Hunter Biden we're going to bring you in just a few moments. Now, in the globalist worldview, it's totally logical for them to criticize and punish states here, like Florida and Mississippi, when, according to the elites, they're not living up to the modern norms, abortion, trans rights, etc. But nothing that happens inside China matters to the globalists. Not the Uyghurs being tortured, not dissidents imprisoned, not child labor abuses, not Hong Kong, their freedom being smashed, certainly not the COVID lockdowns, welding people into their apartments. They don't care about any of that. High flyers in business and politics just signed a letter urging President Biden to seek more cooperation and accommodation with China. Well, of course, none of them have to worry about getting their jobs offshore to China or having their neighborhoods flooded with fentanyl. No, they don't have to worry about that. But courtesy of globalization, China has the power, the money, and the prestige to bully the United States when it's being run by an incompetent, corrupt bunch like the Biden administration. And their answer to that? Well, the Biden administration basically is saying, thank you, sir, may I have another? Biden's close to lifting Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods. And Janet Yellen's meeting with her counterpart and Blinken with his this week. Nothing good is going to come out of that. And by the way, goofball John Kerry, he still thinks China is going to be a key ally in fighting climate change. This is hilarious. Of course, China's just moving full steam ahead with coal and its own refining capacity, building that up huge. So things are so bad, America's so weakened, a State Department official actually is quoted today as saying that America should essentially abandon Asia to China. That it's dangerous for Washington to deter a Chinese attack on Taiwan. We need to be investing more in economic engagement and countering climate change, which will require cooperation with China. Yeah, who cares about Taiwan? That whole Taiwan thing's overrated. Let's just keep pouring billions of dollars into Ukraine forever. Look, we're going to win this debate. We're already winning this debate. And in 2024, the American people will want to know that above all else, the American president this time, as he was in 2016, and his whole cabinet, will put our interests first. Biden and his team clearly don't and won't. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.